everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Selena and I'm going to be talking to you today about the different modes of transportation that we took on our trip to Greece. Hopefully this will help you if you're going to Greece for the first time and what we did and all the islands that we visited. So the islands that I'm going to be talking about are the mainland of Athens and then the islands of Mykonos, Naxos, and Santorini. So let's get started. The first one is Athens. We flew directly into Athens. Once we got there, we went to the train station and bought a train ticket for €9 to go to the Acropolis area. Once we got off at our stop, we were able to walk to our Airbnb, which was about a 10 to 15 minute walk. All we had was backpacks, so we were able to walk there. If you have more than just a backpack and lots of luggage, then definitely get a taxi from whatever stop that is closest to you from in Athens. The train usually stops at all the major areas of Athens, so you should be able to walk or a short taxi ride from the train stop that you get off at. Once we were in Athens, we only spent about 2 or 3 days there. We were able to walk pretty much anywhere. We were able to walk to the grocery store, to any restaurant, and also some of the major attractions. We walked to some days for up to an hour to get somewhere. We were okay with that, just depending on your physical abilities, you can do that. Or obviously there's taxis pretty much anywhere, or there's the local bus that's pretty good that you can bus around as well. That was our best recommendations for Athens. We thought that there was no point of renting a car or anything like that. The area is mostly just walking and doing a quick taxi if you're going somewhere specific. The only time we actually did have to rent a taxi in Athens was going to the ferry, which was pretty far from the Acropolis area. So we started walking and then found out quickly that it's way too far, and we grabbed a taxi and taxied there, and that was the only time we used it. Once we got to the ferry, it was at €20 to get to Mykonos. That was our most expensive ferry the whole time we were there. And it was a slow ferry, so it took us about 8 hours. You can also book fast ferry boats instead if you want to spend more. It's more expensive, but you'll get there a lot faster if you don't have a lot of time. For us, we had a lot of time, so we were just good with saving money and enjoying the 8-hour ferry ride and getting there whenever we got there. So that's definitely an option as well for ferries. All of our ferries were booked in advance. We booked it through ferryhopper.com. We found this site when we were looking for sites for ferries, and we found this one to be the best one. It gave you all the different options for all your different budgets. If you had a short day one day and you had a lot of time another day, you can book ferries that are within your time range for how long you wanted to spend on the ferry. All of them were really good, and we had no problems on the ferry. Once we were in Mykonos, we got off the ferry and we had to just take a short sea bus. It was €2 to get to Mykonos town, and it was probably a 5 to 10 minute sea bus ride. We got off at Mykonos town and then we walked to our hotel, which was 3 or 4 minutes outside of Mykonos town. It only took us about 35 minutes to walk there. We only had backpacks, so we were okay with walking up there. Again, if you have more luggage, you have to get a taxi. There's taxis around the ferry port that you could just grab, and they can drive you straight there if you want. Again, in Mykonos town, it's all just walking within the town where the restaurants and shops are, so you're gonna have to walk just to get from that area to your hotel. Just like pretty much anywhere. Once we were settled into our hotel, we decided to go rent an ATV. We did not do this in advance. I did look at prices before in advance, and they ranged from €30 to €60. So we found an ATV company really close to our hotel, and it was €40 a day. So we ended up going with that. It will be more expensive if you rent closer to the city or within the town of Mykonos. Once you get a little bit further and further outside of the town, then the rates go a little bit lower. However, it's honestly from 30 to 60 euros per day anyways. So I would book whatever's most closest to your hotel and what's convenient for you. Because remember, you're going to have to drop it off, and then you're going to have to figure out how you're going to get to your next destination. So whatever is most convenient is probably better than saving a couple dollars on an ATV. We found an ATV to be the most convenient mode of transportation for Mykonos, just because of the parking and also getting from all the other beaches. We found the beaches in Mykonos to be the best out of any other islands that we were staying. So we went to 5 different beaches using our ATV. And some of the beaches ended up being even an hour to an hour and a half away from our hotel, and we had no problem driving our ATV all the way there and all the way back. It was easy. We were able to find parking easy because of the size of an ATV is small. You can easily find parking anywhere. And when we went to a restaurant in Mykonos town, we were able to drive down with our ATV and find parking. It would be a lot harder if you had a car to find parking near and around Mykonos town. So definitely that would be the best recommendation for transportation in Mykonos. Again, like everywhere, there are buses. However, you're very limited on where you can go. If you want to go to a beach that's more secluded, sometimes they don't have buses, and then you have to schedule your time around the bus schedule, and that just wastes a whole lot of time, especially if you're only there for a couple days. So after Mykonos, we ended up walking to the ferry when we checked out of our hotel, and then we took the ferry to Naxos. Naxos Island is more of a quiet, laid-back, relaxing island. Very different than Mykonos, Mykonos is more partying and it's more alive, more younger people. Naxos is more older people and more relaxing. People just standing by the beach. There's a lot of sailing going on there. So we chose that one because we just wanted a break from Mykonos and Athens and just being on the go all the time, and we wanted a couple days to relax. So we ended up staying there for 4 nights. Our hotel was in Naxos town. It was walking distance from the ferry port. It was about a 10-minute walk. However, we couldn't find it when we arrived, so we ended up having to get a taxi so they could show us where it was. It was only about a 3-minute taxi ride, but we couldn't find it when we were walking. Even when we asked people, it just wasn't working. So in that case, we just had to cave and get a taxi for that one. While we were in Naxos, we actually ended up not renting any vehicles. We were able to walk to all the restaurants and all the shops from our hotel. Since our hotel was so central, we didn't have to rent anything. If you want to go outside of the city limits, then of course you would have to rent an ATV. However, we decided instead is to book a sailing tour, and it sailed to other places nearby on the island of Naxos. So we were able to see a lot of Naxos just from the 1-day sailing tour. And then the other days we just had dinner in the town and went shopping and stuff like that, and that was good for us. So after Naxos, we went to our final Greece destination, which was Santorini. Santorini is a small island and its most popular island. When we got there, it was the most surprising ferry location that we didn't know and we didn't expect. So when we got there, we were expecting to rent an ATV right from the ferry port and just use the ATV throughout our 4 nights and 5 days there. That was definitely not the case when we showed up. We saw when we went in from our ferry that the ferry port is below a large cliff, and they did not rent ATVs from there just because the ATVs cannot get up the steep road going out of the ferry port. So basically, you're kind of caught with either getting a taxi, a shuttle bus, or renting a car from the ferry port location to get out of the ferry port location. So this took us by surprise. So we ended up having to talk to a bunch of different companies just because we were not prepared to have to rent a car or pay for a shuttle bus. We were staying in Ia. Some people call it Oia, but it's the very, very tip of Santorini. So it's the furthest place from the ferry port. It is the farthest place, and you definitely need a vehicle to get there. So we were talking with a shuttle company. They were taking about 10 to 12 people all the way to Ia, and we asked how much it was, and it ended up being 40 euros per person. So that's 80 for us. It was 80 for two of us. It was 80 euros for one way, and then we knew on the way back we would have to get a shuttle, and then it would be another 80 euros. So then we decided to talk to someone about a car, and that ended up being the best choice for us because it ended up being 140 euros for 4 nights and 5 days to have a car. This worked out the best because we were able to take the car right from the ferry port, and when we left Santorini, we actually flew out to our next country from Santorini airport. So we were able to just leave the car at the airport, and then the rental company picked it up. So we didn't have to spend any extra money on taxis or buses or anything else during our whole stay. So that was definitely the most convenient and cheapest option that we found. We were at first disappointed that we couldn't rent an ATV, but once we started driving to Ia and then seeing how windy the roads were and seeing how some of them were on cliff sides with large cars and large buses driving by, we definitely did not regret our decision because we felt most safe in a car. If you are just staying in one town the whole time and you want to rent an ATV, that's totally good and fine. And we saw a lot of people doing that, but we went to a lot of different towns in Santorini, which we had to drive really far. So we were really happy with a car, just because sometimes it's very hard on you to drive an ATV for more than an hour through windy roads when it's windy, when there's large cars trying to pass you and everything like that. So we definitely recommend renting a car in Santorini, especially if you're staying at some of the farther towns in Santorini. So that's basically it. That was our trip to Greece. We went to 3 islands and Athens. It took us 2 weeks. Those are all the modes of transportation that we used. Those were the best, and if we were to go back to Greece again, we would do the exact same thing with all our transportation. Hopefully anybody that's planning a trip to Greece, this helped you guys out with what type of transportation you're going to be using during your trip. If you have any other questions, leave it in the comments below and I can definitely answer them for you. If you like this video, give it a 2 thumbs up, and also subscribe, as I'm going to be posting more videos about tips to go to Greece and also other countries that we've been to. And lastly, if you are looking for itinerary ideas or other tips to Greece, you can also visit my website at www.beyondyeg.com, and I give 2-week itineraries and other things that we did during Greece if you're going there for the first time. Other than that, I will see you guys next time in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.